We've got Sebastian, we've got Alistair Pugin and Daryl Webster talking about Velo intranet, talking about whether intranets are valid. This is regarding 365. Here we go, guys. We are live. Al, take it away, mate. You wrote some article discussing about intranets, whether they're valid. Some deep
Daryl,
thoughts.
we can see your bedroom.
No, I'm in a hotel in Hamilton, and I will share pics later of my crazy setup. I've got the hotel flat screen
There we
TV
go.
over there connected with HDMI. I've got my Blue Yeti. I've
I
got
can
cameras
see
here. Yeah, all over the place. Man.
Okay, let's get the show on the road.
Do it.
How's
do it.
365? And welcome to episode 00 of 365 Insights, the only show on regarding 365 where anyone can wear a helmet and there are no points.
That sounds really
Welcome,
familiar.
Yeah, it does.
You're beautiful, man.
So today, on today's show, this is the episode 00, like all good shows, all seasons that you see all over the world. This is episode 00. This is sort of a prelim to the new 365 Insights show that we will be launching, I think it's sometime in Feb, as soon as the studio is built. Roderick Modlin will be our chief host, our jester of sorts that will be managing the conversations. And this is the typical sort of thing we'd have going when we do 365 Insights. So you'd think of Rod Modlin as Stephen Fry from QI. I'll be Alan, whatever his surname is. And then we've got our industry insider and heckler, Francois Pina, and Warren Marks coming on the show to debate things. And like we will always do every second week, we'll have a guest like Sebastian Leveur coming onto the show to dispute. Did I say that right?
That was pretty good.
Yeah. To dispute what we are saying, and this is the first of those. So follow up to my blog post, are intranets still valid? It's a big question currently. The world is going crazy. Microsoft has said Teams is the future. Gartner has said ECM is dead. And yet we have vendors like Velo producing high quality traditional intranets. And that's really how the conversation started. So Seb, I think from our side, we consultants, we talk to customers all the time. You are the person that has intranets inside his head. If I take this helmet off and I put intranets in there and I turn it around and I had to give it a face, it would be your face. So
Sorry for.
We have a straggler behind, Daniel, wanting to be in, but he doesn't have a mic. Yeah.
He does not, and I'm proud of it.
We can't. Anyhow, coming back, let's not squirrel like that. So for the viewers out there, in your own words, Seb, What is an intranet?
No, don't do that. An internet. I almost lost my laptop now. Sorry for that. I'm actually in SharePoint Fest Chicago. We're having a pretty cool conference, so we might have some special guests coming in all the time. Sorry about that. So what is an intranet? I would say that an intranet is a what is happening over there?
He's just bringing the cloud to you. That's all. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's producing the clouds. An intranet is a platform where people are getting all together to be productive. That's how I think about an intranet. It can be anything. There's a lot of different aspects of an intranet, but it's really to get productive. I don't believe that an intranet can only be one thing, like to collaborate, or one thing to communicate, or one thing to innovate. I think it's a combination of multiple things that makes it an intranet.
Okay, well, that was very diplomatic of you and politically correct, so that you didn't choose a side. Daryl, from your experience with user adoption, that's the space that you play in.
Yeah.
Where do you see intranets going? I mean, we're very traditional. You heard it from the horse's mouth at Ignite that subsites is the spawn of the devil. And we no longer want subsites. Whereas in the 43 minutes that it takes to deploy Velo, I build out my entire information architecture, and it's made up of subsites.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, what happens to users when we change the way that they store content?
Yeah, look, the struggle that has been with intranet since day dot is still adoption. It's about getting people to come to that page, to interact with the content, and we've got various different levels of being able to get people to engage. With SharePoint, of course, if we get people to put their documents in there and use it as a collaboration space, there's a bit more of a pull there to it, but it has been tricky from an adoption standpoint. Now, I firmly believe that there's still a place for intranets, so I'll say that out at this point, and I can still see that subsites can still have a place in that intranet too. But let's just say that I'll put the stake in the ground there, that the intranet that we have known up until this point as a collection of collaboration spaces, and then another pillar which is all about your managed information that you kind of want to publish and share out, they're separating. And the intranet itself really is still important because we still need to get common information across to everyone. And that's where I see the intranet sitting.
Okay. So you don't see a huge impact. Users are just going to work differently with work objects.
I think, yeah, work objects are beginning to sit out in collaboration spaces that are richer now because they have, for example, Teams, which we're using today, makes conversation the center, and then your work objects are around that. Similarly with Outlook groups, or as Christoph would correct us, groups for Outlook, then you have to, it's all about conversation in the center. Or Yammer, for example, too. So those spaces, conversation is driving the collaboration to begin with, and the work is around it. But that doesn't negate the need for an intranet. We still need a place where I can go and find those HR policies or templates or various other things that we want to communicate with richer, longer stories. And so that's where I think the intranet still sits. And it may still be a challenge we'll still face the same challenges to get people along to those intranets, won't we? The homepage, how do we get people to come into that and access that common information? I've spoken enough.
Okay, well, I tend to agree with you, and that's quite enlightening because a lot of people have thought, well, Teams is coming along, so we all gravitate there, but you're still going to need, and it's interesting because with the advent of the intranet, it was really about storing unstructured content, as in content that is put into Word documents or PowerPoint presentations. The structured content, so sort of inner outer loop stuff. The outer loop would be supply chain, ERP, all of those things, financial applications, because those are record sets in the traditional sense. So you've got, think of an Excel spreadsheet. You've got rows and columns, structured data, unstructured data, content stored inside of Word documents. And now we're saying that with the evolution of chat-based information management, our unstructured data is now becoming structured because of HR and marketing and all of those things. And our unstructured data is actually now diminishing in type and becoming more chat-based.
Yeah.
Yes, no, maybe?
Yeah, the chat's giving it some context.
Yeah.
What do you reckon, Seb?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. I think I wouldn't replace my chat. I would complement or add some value to existing content. That's what I like in Teams where you can chat on any document. That actually gives some context to the document, and you know what to do, when to use a document. But still, I feel that those unstructured documents will never be replaced by entirely like a wiki or a set of chat elements. That's, for me, that just doesn't work.
Yeah,
so
you have
Seb,
to go and find that conversation, don't you? So that becomes a challenge.
Are you going to eventually hand the mic and the headphones to Dan?
No,
we can ask him the question.
He's gone. He's gone. I'm so happy he's gone.
So just bringing it back, Seb, how does Valo and I mean, you're on the dev side, right? So I'm gonna lean towards dev further on in the conversation. But when we talk about enterprise content management, I mean, that's the basis for the reason why we exist today. And with Gartner saying enterprise content management doesn't exist anymore, so does AIM, and Microsoft comes up with this term called content services, and they've got this whole portal around what content services is. What is your take on where Microsoft is going with this message, especially if I look at what your product from a value perspective does?
Well, I would say, yeah, and especially today, we just launched our newest module that actually takes that content services to a really next level. For us, content services is just another name for ECM or whatever. I don't think ECM is that at all. I think maybe it changed a bit in its form, in a way that people are interacting with documents, where document becomes some kind of a center, or a group of people become the center of those documents. But we don't think that we're gonna people are still producing documents every day. They need to store them. They need to have a life cycle. They need to be able to maintain them. They be able to publish them. That's never gonna change. So what is ECM? Pretty much what I just described. Just now, everything is out as service. So they couldn't do ECMAS like ECM as a service. So they just said that's gonna be content services. So that's my take on that aspect of things. How do we manage that in terms of an internet product? Well, we still believe that there's two different fronts. There's really the publishing fronts, the one we're talking about, HR policies, that kind of stuff, that really, really live within a specific environment that is a bit more controlled, and we like to see that the content services is more user-driven, more user-owned, where it makes sense, because those are the subject matter experts of that specific document or that specific set of documents. So we actually split our product in two different pieces. The one that is the internet, and the other one, which is the more collab side of things, which brings all the ECM concepts in there. So with content types and information architecture and anything else. And we think that those needs to be two different things migrated or aggregated within one single product. So we use our internet product as the aggregator for that, but everything lives somewhere else. So, and we're leveraging all the nice and new things of Office 365. So we're using the groups, we're using Teams, we're using Planner, we're using anything that makes sense to create content. Now content is all across different pieces. We have content that lives in Planner, you have content that lives in Teams, you have content that lives in SharePoint, you have content that lives in Power BI. Well, instead of fighting against that, let's just embrace what is in there. Let's use it, and let's regroup it through the groups for Outlook, or Outlook groups, or whatever, the Office 365 group thingy, whatever. Let's just regroup all that into a single set of membership, and kind of providing context of why all those documents are in there. And let's just roll that up inside your intranet and make it personal. Means I will see what I need to see. I will see where I'm a member of, make it all my relevant documents. We know that Delve was a cool tool to get to your personal stuff, but it's kind of all mixed up, and it's hard to have some context. Well, that's what we do. We provide the context you were missing with Delve.
So Daryl, you like Teams, right?
Yeah, we use it. We use it at Adopt and Embrace. Yeah, we've found it to be quite good. Even now we're using guest access to try and pull people together and work. Yeah,
it works well.
Do you see Teams? This is specifically for you, Daryl. Do you see Teams having an impact on how people work? I mean, there's no real, because Teams is brand spanking new, and Teams is not a Slack competitor. I think it's important to differentiate, because a component of Teams is a Slack competitor.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, but Teams brings you the Office 365 experience in a chat window.
Yeah, that's right. It
Yes?
brings it all together. That's right. So I see where you're going with that.
Slack doesn't do that. Slack, you'd have to have 12 plugins to achieve that, right? And it's all paid for stuff. So if you want a plan, you've got to bring in Trello and all the other bits and bobs. So Microsoft calls it intelligent communication, not unified communication anymore, because of the Skype into Teams. So Daryl, from a usability perspective, what is your approach now when, I had a customer today say to me, hey, we want to use Teams. I'm going, but for what? Oh, no, we want to have our board members sit in on it because of external access. I'm going, but SharePoint does that. You don't need to use Teams. You're going to struggle with external access because Teams is not ready yet. There's specific rules for external access. So create a site to call it board packs or even deploy a product like BoardPacks and say share site and put a bunch of people's names in there and presto, magic is there. So are you seeing from a user adoption perspective that you're changing the way you adopt and embrace? I mean, that's your company name, right?
Yeah, look, I know that Teams is quite new, that we still have people that will use pieces of Office 365. But as you rightly say, Teams brings that together. And what really makes it different is the way that it approaches it and centers it around conversation. So when you talk about the new name, Intelligent Conversation, that is because it is making it the hub or the tree, you might say, the root of all the other work that's going on. So we've begun to discuss it earlier. What we find is people are asking, can I have Teams? And they've seen it, and I think the marketing's been very effective. But if they dive on in and start to use it, it usually centers around conversation and then attaching files to that conversation. They don't even know that they're using SharePoint in the background, because the way that Teams wraps it up is it's just called that Files tab. So it does simplify the SharePoint experience, even though there's been a lot of work to simplify SharePoint with modern sites. So that's what we're seeing as the initial uptake for Teams internally. And as far as guest access, at the moment it's a little hobbled because you need to have an Office 365 account. We don't have access with Microsoft accounts yet. That'll be soon. So if you're wanting to bring in external members who are not in a tenant, not in your tenant, they have to be in a tenant. Much like how we've joined today, that you're both in a 365 tenant and to join for guest access.
All right, I think that's enough about Teams. Seb, a big question for you. With modern everything, how does it impact traditional everything?
Well, it impacts on two different fronts. There's a technology front. We need to update our solutions to take advantage of all the modern techniques. For SharePoint, we can talk about SPFX, but there's a bunch of different artifacts that lives all over the place that we need to update our technology stack. So that is something that I would say all the providers have already made, just to make sure that you're on the right curve to be ready when SharePoint Framework is ready for you. The other thing is also to maybe rethink where an intranet or what is we're coming back to the initial question. Where do you live as a user? You live in productivity. You live where you get things done. So what about the internet becomes more of an intranet service that connects everywhere you are? Not a central location, but something that is omnipresent, like is all over the place, that gives you some tidbits of information wherever you are, and then to have that homepage somewhere for people to still go there if they want to bookmark that homepage, to still have like that dashboard of the news and the birthdays and what's the stock and how's the weather like outside. We still provide that, but we want to give more value inside where people are actually working, and that's the modern thing. Like today, we want to work together. What we're going to create, we're going to create a group. We're going to create a group where we're going to spin up some files, maybe have a plan, and we're going to work there. But I might want to, as a communication manager, I might want to push a message that is super important, and I want you to see it. But you will not come to my homepage. I want you to provide the information wherever you are. So Teams is a good example of something that kind of globalize your work habits and your work productivity. The modern experiences also provides that. There's a way for us to inject ourselves in there to provide a global navigation to go back to those HR policies whenever you need it, but you're actually in your getting things done moment of the day. I'm using a technique called the Pomodoro, which means that for 25 minutes, I do nothing than one thing. Like I'm not even checking emails, Facebook, or whatever. So if I'm somewhere and there's really something very, very important that I need to be aware of, and I need that message or that information to be pushed to me, and not to be I don't want to be retrieved. So it's more like when in like 10 years ago everything was all around pull. So we had IMAP on our phones. We're we need to pull all of our emails all the time. Now we're more in a push where the email comes to you when the email feels that you need to get it, which for us it becomes a problem because we've got way too many emails. But that's what we want to do with like kind of pushing the right information to the right person wherever they are in their own work and productivity context. So that's why modern. That's what means modern for us.
So in the Office 365 content, there's a couple of different moderns. One,
Yeah.
we've got the SharePoint Home, which, like you said, contextually aware, it uses a bit of delve, and it shoves news to the top of the page.
Yeah.
And is Daryl switched off?
I'm still here. Yeah, I'm just trying to steal back some bandwidth. Turned off my
Okay, cool.
camera.
Oh, all right. Okay, so there's the SharePoint Home, which has got a modern feeling. Then you have modern pages inside of a team site created from the SharePoint Home. Because if you create it from the site collection, you don't get that from the admin center. And then you've got communication sites, which is more modern. And now we're getting this glue between team sites and communication called hub sites.
Yeah.
Do you have an inkling of what Microsoft was thinking when they decided to departure from, or to create this departure from the norm? Because everything else is not that.
Did they moved away from the norm? Like I think it was a they needed to go through that path. So let's think about all the different groups and communication sites. Some are connected to groups, some are not. Communication sites are even not connected to groups. How do I say that? Like now everything is flat. Everything's a site collection. It simplifies security and access and all that kind of stuff. External sharing just simplifies everything for that. But then you have 200 or 2,000 or 20,000 different set of sites that just sit side by side, and it's hard to get to one of those sites because you have like 12 bookmarks you can put in your SharePoint Home, and if you're more active than 12 sites, well, there you go. This is where the hub sites comes into play, where it's actually easy for anyone to connect those different pieces. And I would say this is the modern subsite, another modern. So the modern subsite. So the hub site is like a virtual top-level site, and then you will be able to have a navigation that will spread across. I don't care at this point if that is a team site or a com site or a classic site that has subsites or no subsites. I will be able to manage my structure the way I want it, and I'll be able to move it also around when I need it, which for us makes a lot of sense to get where people are. Because people are working a certain way, I don't really care where they are. I just want to move in a more of a logical way, and that's it. So for us, the upside is actually a very good news. We're going to leverage those new experiences as soon as they're available to fit inside our story. It's going to make it a lot easier, but still. We will really embrace what Microsoft is doing for a specific reason, because people also, by living in those experiences, they also change. They become modern. They become modern information workers that are expecting new types of experiences, new types of daily productivity ways of working, and we want to be there with them.
So you are pretty much going to take team sites, hub sites, communication sites, and suck that into Valo.
That's exactly it. Exactly. We will
That's so
leverage.
exciting.
We will provide a bunch of components. We'll provide a bunch of different elements. But yes, we will not stick to that like classic publishing experiences. We will go all into a modern approach, and we will also keep supporting that for people that are maybe more in a classic mode or more into the on-prem environment. But we will really try to innovate by building a product that will fit inside that content services way of working.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that because I can deploy an intranet with all the glue from Microsoft in a script, and that's very exciting.
That's exactly what we want to do.
Is that where the 43 minutes comes in? You said it deploys in 43 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. 43 minutes.
Well, I haven't tested that theory for some time because I don't have the latest release of Valo because someone didn't read their mail. But we're not going to talk too much about it. So now that Teams has achieved what Yammer could not, and let me say that again, Teams has achieved what Yammer could not.
Would that be replacing email? Because neither of them have yet.
No, not replacing email, but having that communication around gluing the object to the communication, not gluing the communication to the object. And Daryl, you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah.
So,
Yammer did struggle with that because of the Yammer files container, right? And as it moved into the Microsoft and Office 365 arena, you had these two separate places for files, Yammer files, and then now they've got the tacked on SharePoint side as well. So, it had been a struggle for them to get more to happen around a file. But I will correct something there and say they do have a good experience when it comes to having multiple conversation threads around a document. So I don't know how they're going to recreate that with SharePoint, but in Yammer files you could have 5 or 6 threads about the same document, go to the document and see all those different threads. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I forgot that Daryl he loves Yammer more than you and I do, Seb.
I don't know. I'm more towards the side of Daryl on that one, I think.
So no one is prepared to take a stand. Yeah.
Actually,
afraid of the Yammeratis.
I realized that there are very, very good use cases to use Yammer, and I think the document one is actually a pretty good one. So you can have some kind of contextualized conversation, but on a per topic, and not everything in a single huge thread that is hard to follow. So we've seen big customer success with that also.
So Seb, we're coming up to the top of the half hour, and in closing, I've got 3 things I want to ask you. Where do you see on-prem?
Totally there.
All right.
Totally available. We're gonna continue to support it 2016, even with the as soon as the bits are available for 2019, we will support it. We will take a modern approach in dev for that, so we're gonna have a single stack for all of our different product modules. But we're gonna live in the on-prem world, so we're gonna be limited in features.
Okay, number 2. What do you besides you working for Valo to the success of Valo?
Say that again. You just caught up.
What do you think is added to the success of Valo besides you working for Valo?
I would say it's our approach where we totally rely on our partner network to deploy, and those partners know really, really, really well their customers, and that's one of the reasons why we have so much success.
Because you've really gone from zero to hero in no time, and you're at the forefront of what intranets in a box is supposed to be.
Good to hear.
And then the final question, will you be plugging into Teams?
We will. And Teams will be one of our channels that we will integrate with. We really want to be there where the people are, and Teams is where the people are, so we will be there.
All right, so we at the top of the half hour. It is 30 minutes past whatever the time is in your country. Thank you very much, Seb, for sitting in on this inaugural 365 Insights episode.
You're welcome. Anytime, Al.
And Daryl, thanks for being the co-host, for switching all the switches and making sure that we can get this information to everyone.
Yeah.
If you want to follow us, jump onto the Regarding 365 site. So head over to regarding365.com. From there, you can break out to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/c/regarding365. Is that right, Daryl?
Yeah, that's right. You can even drop the C, apparently. So it's just Regarding 365.
All right. And if you want to know anything and everything about intranets, just look out for Falling in Love with Your Intranet by Valo. Thanks a lot, guys, and we'll catch you next time.
Great. Bye now.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Yes.